presentations so far, Keith, Klaus, and Laura. You all raised very relevant points, and interestingly, it appears to many that wellness is a new thing or a popular thing or a trend thing, and I would like to really challenge that, since if you ask me personally, I don't think there's anything new about wellness. It has been around for ever since humankind is around, just we didn't necessarily call it that way, didn't necessarily put that label on top. That's a good thing as well as a challenging thing, and I want to raise a couple of pointers here. I think that's quite a good word. All the English speakers might appreciate that we are, in general, in a kind of a grumpy mood that we are not traveling. Domestically, yes, but we really got used to traveling to places which we really wanted to visit, regardless of the actual location. And in that case, in that sense, international travel is almost out. And obviously, we're not necessarily being able to visit places we wanted to visit or do things that we would like to do. So people are actually interested in looking around and finding out what may be happening in the next year or so, and what we can be even thinking of in terms of travel. I think we all know that there's always been a status anxiety, especially in urban environment in Western first world problem, but now it's changed to health anxiety, which is a major problem here about health and related issues. I think it's very important to highlight that we have a shift in terms of focus, which is lifespan or health span. And I think we should be really thinking about the health span. And that's what the World Health Organization is suggesting, that really we should be dealing with the health span and not just the number of years, but more like how we are living our lives. And then it becomes a very hot topic. And that's why this wellness this and wellness that is a good thing, as well as easily can become a very tired expression, and we need to look into the actual depth of it. I think it's an interesting little pointer here, that when you look around for various discussions, I found this very entertaining and as well as interesting piece, which says in the title that wellness is a waste of time, and I have to agree with the author here that wellness is often just a big con. Now we are selling anything and everything under wellness, including electronic equipment, foods, watches, clothes, even cars for the matter. And it's a little bit tiring. I'm personally really tired of this whole wellness craze, because it's often, not always, I'm saying often, it's without actual content or without actual meaning. It's just a relabeling of what has been around for a long time. And as Laura also mentioned, in many parts of the world, they didn't use the label, but they have been practicing wellness, or if you wish, well-being improving services and practices for hundreds or thousands of years. And now we are relabeling it. When we look at various trends issues, I think it's a relatively important pointer here, and that is what kind of trend issues we can see, from engineered environments down to crowdsourced health-related or wellness-related services, gamified fitness, smarter intakes, and all that. And these are wellness improving, wellness contributing services and approaches, some of which never been called and shouldn't be called wellness as a term. There we need to look out for various other terms, and then I will get to that, what it actually means to customers as well as to industry. I want to share a couple of points from the study that we did with the Wellness Tourism Association and the launch of the Detailed results will be next week at the annual members meeting, and I will. You can always check our various social media web presence, and then you can find out the results very soon. A couple of major issues here, and one is that it's been a change in terms of what's been happening in terms of understanding, and I believe that's very important that we have comparison between academia and industry, since there's a lot of research, and Klaus can confirm, and that has been a lot of research on what well-being is, and industry now recently recognized that that's what well-being probably is new about it, and it's taking over wellness as a term, since well-being is a very academic terminology, and in many languages that's what actually counts, and not wellness, because it's been considered as an industry label only. And this is when we need to look into inspirations for communication as well as product development. It's about life, it's about how we feel about life, and it's not necessarily about what we transcribe in terms of numbers or data, because this is very, very personal. And this is a word cloud of the actual study that we did. You can see the frequency of various terminologies. And you look at the industry, you can see that it's more like a state of how we live, and not necessarily the feeling. So we have a bit of an issue here between industry and academia, that they don't necessarily follow the same understandings, and rigorous academic research, I think, often is quite useful for industry to see that terminologies and understandings can be very, very different. And just because we label something in one way, it doesn't necessarily mean that the customers use exactly the same labels. Couple of pillars, which are, I think, rather interesting here, and how we should be looking into pillars. Because, as you know, well-being has 6 major pillars, and we can see that most of the time we're looking into the physical, because that's about massages, treatments, and all those sort of things. But it is very much anticipated that all across the board we should be paying way more attention to the emotional pillar, and also to spirituality. That's, I think, confirmation to what Laura has been sort of talking about in terms of what is really interesting over here, but it's more of the very foundations of how we do product development, what wellness may be in 4.0, just like industry does. I think it's very, very important that we need to be complex, we need to be integrative, and need to be holistic in terms of approach. That's very nice. At the moment, that's very strategic, it's very back of house, but we need to translate it. We need to introduce it to guests as well as to industry, because I believe industry is missing a point often of what they believe wellness is or wellness should be to customers, and how that should be introduced to guests. Let me give you a couple of motivation and trigger points, because that, I think, is rather important, and especially looking into the massive discrepancies in terms of how our survey suggests industry or academia may look at these trigger points. This is what make people buy things. This is what they're looking for. They don't necessarily look for wellness per se, but they're looking for self-healing. They're looking for belonging. They're looking for recharge. They're looking for distressing. They want to reward themselves. This is the terminology that we have been, we should be looking into, but that's not necessarily what's happening. And you can see the differences, and this is where I think industry, academia, and we all would need to have a much better discussion, and way more critical discussion, since we are pushing by wellness this and wellness that, but the fundamental trigger for anything which is labeled as wellness is these triggers. Could be more, of course, but I'm just giving you a couple. So if nothing else, just food for thought that anytime you are labeling anything wellness, look behind, because self-healing could be the major issue, especially when we have a mental stress, as we have been living through at the moment. And this is another term that Keith can confirm, that when you talk to hospitals and you say, forget medical or healthcare, talk to me about healing, they might say, oh God, what are you talking about? Some mumbo jumbo, maybe, because that's what healing is. Because healthcare professionals don't necessarily understand healing as such, because it's very kind of a gray area. But when you go to Asia or go to Central America, South America, healing is, or Africa, is a central part of lifestyle. Self-healing, traditional healing, and healing based on natural cultural resources is absolutely fundamental. And they are not going to call it wellness, and you need to avoid that mistake. I think that's a great expression of how the new normal can respond to expectations. And obviously the participation numbers may be smaller, and that may be a risk to offer something which is economically viable. But I really like that design, because it really gives you the feel and sense of separation and, say, distance and safety, but at the same time visually is pleasing. It's not a restriction per se. It's more like a different way of introducing what's really possible. And this is what I think we need to look out for. I really like this, another little piece, that sober is the new cool. And this is what, especially in certain countries, being sober, taking over alcohol can be a critical and very interesting topic. But we have sober bars or dry bars, where you pay as much for a non-alcoholic drink as you would pay for a very complicated cocktail or a very expensive wine. That's maybe just a trend, maybe just a fashion thing, but we need to look out for all these options and how we can incorporate, again, the trigger behind it, why people are happy to pay as much money for soda, if you wish. But you can't call it that way, because that would be very much degrading what the value is represented here. Which one to choose? When we work with clients, either destinations or governments or, sorry about that, in private developers, we understand 4 major directions in business. One is the wellnessification, where the whole service provision is rewired, if you wish, and incorporate various wellness, improving approaches, services, and treatments. So everything from gastronomy down to accommodation, or even to typical, traditionally spa-labeled services. Still, we have a lot of Welllusion, which is, since Laura also introduced a lovely word, composite word, this is another one, which is illusion based on some wellness thing, which looks lovely, has the necessary Instagrammable quality, but the actual content behind it may feel very weak. But still, that's sellable. So people and companies and brands do follow that approach. We have Welltertainment, which is basically an entertaining little activity, which at the same time, because it's fun and it's joyous, directly incorporates some wellness improving qualities, either physical or mental or social. But at the same time, it would need to be fun, since many service providers in wellness still keep their little tempo and take this literally or not, that you need to be quiet, you need to be distant, not just physically, but also mentally. distant from others, and it can cause stress. And we need to look into the Well-Eminent, which is an eminent service provider, which is really, really focusing on one thing. Not on a lot of things, just one thing, but you do that very, very well. And of course, the temple stays would fall under this category, and all the other retreats that are focusing on nothing else but, say, silent meditation. So, choice is yours. Which one would you choose? I would like to have a couple of examples, and this is a tradition for locals, and we have a speaker in the second session, and I'm sure she can refer to this because it's in Japan. And is it entertainment? Is it entertainment? Although at the same time, it's a traditional healing practice for the local community. But for tourists, for visitors, that would be an entertaining thing to do, and very, very looks great on Instagram. Which one is it? That's really up to you, and it's the destination manager's decision. And this is from China, for the matter. And again, it's entertainment in a way, because you are baking eggs in hot springs. And then you have the minerals, getting into the egg, and then you can boil your very own egg in a hot spring, which is great entertainment quality. And at the same time, you are taking in some essential minerals. Again, it's up to you how you call it, but these are the issues that we need to look out to. And say a floating sauna, which is one from Estonia in Europe, which is a very, very basic thing, and there is nothing in it, no electricity or anything, but you are on a small lake, you're floating around with your very own private sauna, and enjoy the lake, enjoy some physical activities. At the same time, you enjoy the benefits of taking the hot steam or the dry heat. These are tiny little examples of creating a very new proposition. And I think, Keith, you would absolutely like this one, because we call it binge wellness, which is anyone would like to have gin and tonic yoga, which again, anyone who is a hardcore wellness person might say, a hardcore yoga person, absolutely no way, that's the Antichrist, that's just absolutely impossible. But to others who say, you know what, I can have some fun, I don't want to be totally 120% focused as much, I would like to enjoy myself as well. And I would like to try that, especially when you have younger people, when you have even men would enjoy certain kind of, Klaus, there's beer yoga in Germany, so you can enjoy that. I can drive you to that place if you wish, so that's possible. So it's just inviting different kind of segments into the business. Obviously, the point is not to get totally drunk, but just get some entertainment value here. All right, I think we need to look into some conversation, which is, everybody knows UX and CX, which is customer experience or user experience. What we do, and I really would like everybody to even think about it, which is well-being experience design, which is WX. And you go through the whole service provision and you check where you can incorporate some additional components that can contribute to your wellness, but not necessarily called wellness. The landscape that we are using and suggesting, and feel free, that's available on our web, that it would go way beyond the usual understanding of the well-being landscape and who has what kind of role in it, in leisure and sports and recreation, in community lifestyle, in facilities and cultural resources, and the local economy or public health. So please, I really suggest in the understanding of new wellness that go beyond the usual boundaries, either physical or even legal or traditional, because the wellness would need to be way wider in terms of its understanding. Some messages that I would like you to consider and take home, and that is, don't think that wellness is new. Don't fall for this premise that, yes, I just recognized 10 years ago that wellness, it really, really isn't. And especially not in Asia, especially not in Korea, South Korea, it really isn't. And also don't mix wellness demand with wellness tourism, because there people do have demand for certain wellness improving services, but they may not have demand for wellness tourism when the whole package is about it. So be strategic and do your homework and translate whatever you have locally in that sense, but don't fall for something that now everything is going to be wellness tourism. And consider that value propositioning based on WX can be very different than it used to be. You may need to talk to well-being archaeologists. They don't exist, but we can create a couple of those, who can help you and guide you through how has been going on wellness-related services in that local community or destination for quite some time, and it would help you to work towards a new wellness understanding. And just confirming some of the previous points, people look for services, destinations, and offers, but don't necessarily they don't look for wellness per se. They look for something which eventually will contribute to the wellness or well-being, but in the end, it's not necessarily called that way. So don't fall for that, but be aware that people are really interested. And in South Korea, I think, as just confirming, Laura, you are positioned in a very, very good place, because you have all the resources and the support of the government. But be careful in terms of what's wellness service and what's wellness tourism. There's overlap, but not quite the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Laszlo Puczko, CEO from Hungary. Thank you very much.